नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे. Today we will be discussing about a very important topic that concerns our life: surviving life challenges, Yoga Vedanta way. The human life is very difficult, every one of us know. We face many troubling situations in our life and we feel disappointed sometimes, we feel hurt, we feel angry. What is the cause of these reactions? Why we should get disappointed on every occasion? Why we should feel hurt or angry when expectations are not met, when we face so many situations? This is the fundamental answer, fundamental question we have to deal with today. This is because we think everything will happen according to our wish. It will not happen so. And also sometimes we feel cheated. And somebody is taking me for a ride and we underestimate ourselves sometimes. I am not qualified, I am not efficient, I am not that much uh, qualified or efficient to do something. These are all some of the phobias we develop when we deal with people day to day. This is underestimating ourselves. And also we become very vulnerable. Suppose there is a condition or scene when we have to face some critical moments in our life. For example, medical condition or an accident or death of a dear and near ones. Then we become very vulnerable. We become very emotional. We feel despondent and we feel very sad, and nobody can control our emotions. We try our best, but we cannot hide our emotions. We feel very despondent and desolate. And also about people around us. And we don't have a good, healthy relationship with others. And we always think our relatives, our family members, or those who we know are always creating some problems to us. They are making us subordinate and we have to follow them, otherwise there is no other way. All these phobias, fears we develop in our mind when we are dealing with other people. And we are not able to find solitude also. We cannot enjoy the loneliness also. So this is a two-way problem. One is when we are dealing with others, when we are in the company of others, we are not able to enjoy it because of the various factors, our own phobias and fears. And another, in turn, we cannot enjoy the solitude also. And there is a difference between solitude and the loneliness. Loneliness is where we suffer being alone. Solitude is that we enjoy. The spiritual loneliness, being alone with God, thinking about God, is what is called solitude. But the loneliness we suffer from the pang of separation from our dear and near ones. So, all these are life challenges for us. And what are the solutions to these life challenges? How to face the troubling situations in our life? Of course, the modern psychology offers many solutions. People take the help of psychiatrists or modern day gurus, what we call modern day gurus, new age gurus, and we spend lot of money on that endeavor. So we have to spend lot of money when we consult a psychiatrist or attend sessions by the new age gurus, but they will not be able to give us any permanent solutions to our problem. Whatever solutions they give is only superficial solutions, and they give some practical methods, and that may cover up our problems for few months or some time, but in unhappiness, inner dissatisfaction lingers on, and many of us suffer from that, and we live with that. It takes away our energy, it leads to diseases, and we live very unhealthy life. When I say unhealthy, it doesn't refers to only body, it refers to mind. We may have everything on earth, money, affluence, big house, everything, but we are suffering from some inborn tendencies of the mind. Why I am saying inborn is it is created, they are created by our own past actions. Every action leaves an impression on our mind, and that impression will make us to act in a particular manner. So it is the psychology of yoga. So the solutions offered by modern psychologists will not lead to any permanent solution. It will not give us the inner peace. Suppose they will ask you to spend time with your family more and more. You may spend time more and more, but that will not solve all our problems. Why? Because the human problems are not born out of the material need. What I mean material need is, suppose if I need money, if my problems can be solved by money, there would not be any people who are not happy, because many people have money. Moneyed people also becomes unhappy, and they are more unhappy than the poor people sometimes. They are more sad. Why moneyed people had to be unhappy? Because material needs will not satisfy the human necessities. The human problems cannot be solved by the material needs. And the human problems have origin, have source in what is called spiritual lacuna. I call it spiritual emptiness. What is meant by spiritual emptiness? And only Vedanta recognizes that. The Upanishads recognizes that. I want to become complete. I am not complete. How I can become complete? Man tries all material ways of making himself complete and satisfied, contented, but unfortunately he fails to do so. Any amount of money, affluence, power, prestige, name, and fame will not make us happy, contented, or satisfied. It is a fact of our life. So, how to fill up the emptiness of our life? Whether Yoga Vedanta will give any solutions in this regard. Because we read Yoga, Patanjali Yoga, and the Vedanta only for some intellectual satisfaction, to know some philosophy. We don't apply those principles in our life. That is the tragedy. If we can take some good principles, wonderful principles, psychological ideas from the yoga and the Vedanta and apply to our lives, then we can solve many of the problems, if not all. Because Yoga Vedanta tries to find solution at the root level, at the fundamental level. And New Age gurus and the modern psychology try to find the solutions only on the superficial level. That is the difference between Yoga Vedanta solutions and also the solutions offered by modern psychology and the New Age gurus. So, what I mean is, what I am emphasizing is, material needs cannot fill up the psychic lacuna or the psychic emptiness, mental emptiness. You could have observed that I spoke of the three kinds of lacuna or the emptiness. One is the material need or the material lacuna, and material lacuna you can fill up by earning money or accumulating wealth, but it will not satisfy us. And psychic lacuna, that mental emptiness, but mental emptiness we try to fill up by entertaining ourselves, having more and more pleasure out of the objects of the world, eating and merry making, but that will never satisfy us. But material lacuna, emptiness, that I don't have money, I don't have that, I don't have this, and also the psychic lacuna, the mental emptiness, I don't have the satisfaction, I am not satisfied with that and this. I find always there is a kind of emptiness. But the real lacuna, real emptiness is not material lacuna or the psychic lacuna, but it is spiritual lacuna, as I have already told you. The spiritual lacuna is the fundamental lacuna, fundamental type of lacuna which gave rise to emptiness of the mind and emptiness in terms of physical comforts or the material needs. So our purpose should be to fill up the spiritual lacuna. Spiritual lacuna cannot be filled by material needs, and also trying to make the mind happy by engaging in the entertainment or the bhoga or the pleasure of the worldly things. Then what we have to do? The spiritual lacuna, which is the basic lacuna, which is the cause of the material lacuna, and the psychic lacuna should be filled up by spiritual means. Spiritual awareness. What is meant by spiritual awareness? All these problems are due to what Vedanta calls superimposition, and it is also called in psychological terms in Vedanta itself as ahankara and mamakara. If I identify with my body, I need bodily needs, material needs to eat, drink, etc. When I think I am mind, I need mental needs, psychic needs. I need to be entertained. I need to make my mind happy. So all these needs come. The need of these objects of the world come only when I identify with my body and the mind. That is what Vedanta says. Do we really body and the mind, or do we something more? And we are something more than the body and the mind. We are the Atman. We are of the nature of pure awareness. then only all these problems can be solved. So that's why, as spiritual seekers, and everyone is spiritual seeker, a man wants to eat more and more even after his stomach is filled up. Why? Because he is feeling emptiness. He wants to fill it up by eating. This is not just physical lacuna he is trying to fill up. As I already told you, it is spiritual lacuna or the spiritual emptiness, spiritual craving. Even ordinary person's aspirations, desires are spiritual cravings. All our problems can be traced to spiritual problems, and our sense of emptiness is only due to that spiritual emptiness or the spiritual lacuna. Then, what is the solution? We have to find some answers to the pertinent questions, some fundamental questions of life: who we are, what is the meaning of life, what is the goal of life. And none of us think about it. We think about the daily bread, as the Bible puts it. We don't think about our life. We don't think about our life goal. And we don't think about what that makes our life really meaningful and worthwhile. We don't think about it at all. Because we don't have time. We are always engaged in the pursuit of happiness, pleasure. And Swami Vivekananda clearly says in his Karma Yoga lectures, pursuit of pleasures is not the goal of life. Knowledge is the goal of life. If we can find answers to some of the fundamental questions, and we can find lasting solutions to all the problems of our life, not only we find answers and solutions to our problems, and we will also make our life meaningful. We have to lead a meaningful life. We cannot live like animals. What is the difference between animals and human beings? Animals crave for enjoyment, bodily pleasures, and a whole life is spent on them. If a human being lives in the same manner, what is the difference between a human being and an animal? That is why it is said sometimes we live a brute's life, an animal life. We are not supposed to do so. Vedanta teaches, of course, we are human beings, apparently. It is our misunderstanding that we are human beings. We are divine in nature. Atman is our real nature. So Yoga Vedanta can explain the cause of the suffering in this world. What is yoga? Generally, yoga is referred as the Patanjala Yoga, the classical yoga system of philosophy. So it is the proper Indian psychology, you can call it. There are some ideas, revolutionary ideas, which are opposite to the Western psychological ideas, that will really can make a transformation in our life, as we go on see, which we are going to see in this class. So they are not just philosophies as we think. We are afraid to read Vedanta and the Yoga because they are abstract philosophies. It is not so. They are not just philosophy. Of course, there are some philosophical elements, philosophical ideas that are difficult to understand. But if we try and if we study with the guidance of a proper teacher, we will be able to understand that. But Yoga and Vedanta also deal with some significant psychological issues as well. So they can solve the psychological problem. Psychological issues can be solved, can be addressed to if we study Yoga and Vedanta properly. and we can find the profound practical implications. There are some profound practical implications of the Yoga Vedanta principles. And these solutions Yoga Vedanta offer, they are not just theories, they are not just imagination of the intellect as we find in the Western philosophy. They are the realizations of the universal reality called Brahman in Vedanta and also Purusha or Atman in Yoga. So rishis have realized the truth, and upon realization from the mystical heights, they have taught these teachings that form what is called Upanishads or the yoga system. They are eternal. They are eternal in nature. They are still relevant today in this contemporary world in the second half of the 21st century. And philosophical doctrines of the Yoga Vedanta have genesis in the awareness of the spiritual consciousness. So they are not based upon the theory that man is just a body or the mind. Man is spiritually Atman. He is a spiritual being. He is of the nature of the consciousness, Chaitanya, Satu, Chitu, Ananda. This is what you find in the Upanishad. In the Yoga also, we have the concept of two realities. One is Purusha, another is Prakriti. Prakriti means nature, insentient, and Purusha is consciousness. So the aim is somehow there is a wrong understanding that we are Prakriti. I am body, I am mind. Mind and body are the products of the Prakriti. I am not able to disengage myself from the Prakriti. That is what is called bondage in yoga. So what is the solution? Knowledge is the solution. What kind of knowledge? Knowledge of distinction between Purusha and the Prakriti. I am of the nature of pure consciousness. I have nothing to do with body and mind. I am different from that. So the purpose today we are endeavoring here for the next few minutes is to dwell upon some of the psychological and philosophical insights of the sacred books like Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads and the Yoga Sutra, to find out whether they can give us permanent, pertinent and enduring solutions to our psychological problems. Not only they give lasting solutions to our problems of life, they are also able to make our life meaningful and rewarding. And this is the psychological well-being. The spiritual well-being is what is needed in this modern society today, because we are caught up in the web of endless craving, as Thakur Sri Ramakrishna says, for lust and the greed, kama and the kanchana. The first question we have to take up is who we are. We know mind is the abode of all the thoughts. Who suffers actually and who becomes happy? Sometimes we are happy, sometimes we suffer. Really, who suffers? Vedanta says it is mind that suffers or the mind gets happiness, because all the thoughts are in the level of the mind. And who we are then? We are different from the mind. The core of human personality is not the mind. Mind is fluctuating. Mind is changing. Mind undergoes change every moment. Hundreds and thousands of thoughts we come across in the mind, and they all vanish after some time. In other words, mind is thoughts. There is no mind except the thoughts. Mind is changing means hundreds and thousands of thoughts are appearing and vanishing. So, do we identify with the mind? We have to? No, there is no need at all. I am seeing a pot. I am seeing a pot. I know I am different from the pot. In the same way, one can visualize I am different from the mind. If you can develop the witnesshood even for some moments, for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, just observe your mind. That's what Swami Vivekananda says. Before you sit for meditation, or after you sit, before you commence meditation, just observe your mind. You can observe the mind as you observe the pot or the tree externally, because we are not the mind. So Atman is what we are, and Atman is same in all beings. It is the same in animals, it is the same in insects and other creatures as in the human being. So this above doctrine, though it seems to be very philosophical, has got a deep psychological significance. Let us try to identify ourselves more and more with Atman, our real nature. We are of the nature of Supreme Consciousness, Satchidananda, Shivoham, Shivoham. So in order to do that, we have to shed the wrong concept that we are bodies and the mind. As I have already told you, identifying ourselves with body and mind is what is called ahankara. When I identified with the body, I will identify with that which body wants to possess. For example, my cloth. It is not connected with Atman, it is connected with only body. But I develop craving. I want to possess a good cloth, good dress, garments. That is what is called mamakara. It has nothing to do with my real nature. So there are 3 steps involving in this process. One is true knowledge about ourselves, that we are Atman. I am not the body, I am not the mind. That is what Vedanta teaches. And second step is to learn that Atman is only the witness. Atman never interferes. Atman never interferes when we are happy. Atman never interferes when we are unhappy. Atman does the work of a lamp. A lamp illuminates everything, good, bad, evil, ugly, everything. So Atman simply is illuminating our thoughts, good, bad, happiness, misery, in all conditions. So instead of identifying ourselves with the mind, we have to identify with the Atman, and Atman is the witness. So try to develop the witnesshood. Now today I am happy, this moment I am happy. Let us not identify with the state. Next moment I am unhappy, let us not identify with that. Let us develop witnesshood. This is the second step. And third step is trying to dissociate ourselves from the thoughts of the mind. That is why we need profound study of the yoga. Yoga teaches how to observe our mind. We have to observe our mind through the mind. Mind should see the mind as a witness. Now I am having happy thoughts. Sometimes I have the evil thoughts. I am dissociating from that because I am not that thought. I am different from the thoughts. I am that Atman, Satchidananda, Shivoham, Shivoham. This is about what we are. But in normal circumstances, we have to deal with mind. Though we know we are not the mind, the combination of the blending with the mind continues to exist until we get liberation. So we have to deal with the mind. Sometimes we get the hurt feeling, sometimes we get disappointment and other negative emotions. All these negative emotions are not due to external factors. Suppose someone abuses me, I get hurt or I am angry. Vedanta and Yoga say it is not due to that abuse we are angry. It is due to our reaction to the external circumstances. If I react to that abuse, then I become despondent or I become angry. If I don't react to that, I will be in peace to myself. That means adverse reactions to stimuli from the external sources is the cause of our suffering. So we are the makers of our own suffering and happiness, and nobody is responsible. No external circumstance can make us happy or miserable. They have no power. There is no power on earth. If at all we are happy, we have made our mind happy. If at all we are unhappy, it is we have made our mind unhappy. This is the truth. It is our choice. Suppose there are people who react very mildly or moderately. They are more happy than others who react very adversely. And those who are very vulnerable, a slight provocation, external provocation makes them angry or makes them despondent and makes them depressed. Then what is needed is to develop a balanced mind. A balanced mind is that where we are able to accept the things as it is. We cannot change the world that will suit to our convenience. We have to accept the world as it is, and we have to accept the people around us in where they are and what condition they are, and we have to learn to love them and show compassion to everyone irrespective of whether they are good or bad. Then only we can be happy. And Yoga Sutra speaks of two kinds of thoughts. One is that give us suffering, klishta, and that do not give us suffering. And Yoga Sutra says we have to control both kinds of thoughts. And there are 5 states of the mind. Sometimes we are very restless. Very restless. It is called kshipta. Sometimes we are distracted. We concentrate. Now you are trying to concentrate on what I am saying, but sometimes your mind is distracted. That is called vikshipta. And sometimes our mind becomes so much concentrated. But there is another higher state when mind becomes controlled. That is called nirodha. Our goal is to make our mind concentrated and bring the mind under our control. That is called nirodha. Nirodha is the goal of the yoga. So we should avoid being restless, distracted, and another state, dull state, stupor state, inertia, that is also bad. You see, the people who are in these three states of mind, restless, distracted, and the mood, the distracted, and also in the stupor, dull, they are very vulnerable to the external stimuli. So, our aim is to develop concentrated mind. And how to develop concentrated mind? The way to develop concentrated mind is to meditate. Meditation on our chosen deity. So, there are three steps in meditation told in the yoga. One is the withdrawing of the mind, that is called pratyahara, and focusing the mind on a point or an object, that is called dharana, and continuous flow of the mind. When mind continues to flow uninterruptedly towards the object of meditation is what is called dhyana. All these processes are explained in Raja Yoga of Swami Vivekananda. So the concentrated mind, that is our immediate goal, and through concentrated mind, through meditation, we should try to control our mind. Yogaha chitta vritti nirodhaha. This is the second sutra of the Yoga Sutras. The tranquility can be got only by that state, the sattvic state of mind. Of course, all the three gunas are operative in the mind. When the sattva predominates, what is meant by sattva? Sattva means lightness. Sattva means illumination. Sattva means tranquility. Sattva means equipoise of the mind. When we are able to remain in state for more and more time during our daily life, we will feel happiness. It is not the happiness we derive from the sense objects, it is the inner happiness, inner joy of the Atman. So we should avoid at any cost lifestyle involving dull, distracted and restless mind. Suppose you have a job, it needs so much restlessness, you are getting so much distracted or dull. We should avoid such lifestyle because it is hazardous to mental health. We try to keep those who are hazardous to our physical health. We keep away from them, but we don't care about our mental health. That is the tragedy. So importance should be given to moderate thinking. All depends upon how we work, how we think, how we entertain moderately. Moderation. That's what Krishna says in the Gita, Yuktahara Viharasya. And we have to live a sattvic way of life, avoid restlessness, too much of activity, and we should also avoid too much of inertia or inactivity. Live a illumined life, equipoise, balanced life, and through that we can focus on spiritual development. That is very, very essential in our life. If we don't aspire for spiritual goal, in common terms it is called God or Atman, our life will remain meaningless. We may accumulate the whole earth, we may accumulate all the wealth on the earth, we will not be happy at all. Happiness is something inherent. It is in Atman that we are. This is what Yoga Vedanta teaches. But the next point I would like to discuss is how to control the evil thoughts. Many of us suffer from that. We are not able to control our anger or hatred. First thing we should understand is it is not a sudden eruption. Suddenly you will not never get angry. Suddenly you will not develop hatred. anger or hatred are due to our impressions in the mind, samskaras. And who develops samskaras? It is we who develop samskaras. Our past actions, if they are good actions, will leave good impressions. If they are bad actions, will leave bad impressions. And our psyche, it is called karmashaya in yoga, it is full of good impressions and bad impressions. Suppose I get anger towards a person or in a certain condition or situation, the anger is already there in my mind, in my psyche, that I am expressing, that's all. So, what is the way out? Normally we try to suppress the anger, but it doesn't give you lasting solution to the problem. Anger and other evil passions should not be suppressed. Rather, we should cleanse the mind. We should purify the mind. That is what Yoga Vedanta teaches us. By meditation, by constantly giving mind good thoughts, making mind concentrated on particular object, our Ishta Devata, by meditating and trying to study for hours. Hours of study will make our mind pure. So our mind should be filled up with the good thoughts, noble thoughts, and that they replace the evil thoughts. For that we have to do what is called Ashtanga Yoga, especially the first two disciplines of the Ashtanga Yoga. They are called Yama and Niyama. Yama means restraint, Niyama means some regulations. In Niyama we have Ahimsa, non-injury, Satya, truthfulness, Asteya, non-stealing, Brahmacharya, continence, and Aparigraha, not collecting too many things, not accumulating. These are all important for mental well-being and also spiritual development. And Niyama, there are some regulations which will help us to keep our mind calm and tranquil. One is Shaucha, purification. Purity in body and mind, both are necessary, and we have to remain contented and happy always. Santosha, and Gita calls it Santushta Satatam Yogi. A yogi always remain happy, contented, peaceful. And tapas, austerity, the life of luxury in the beginning may be very sweet, but it will take us to very bitter results. So it will be like nectar in the beginning, in the analogy of the Upanishad, Kathopanishad, but it will end in poisonous circumstances. The bhoga will never satisfy us. You cannot get satisfaction by bhoga, enjoyment. And Swadhyaya has got two meanings. One is study of scriptures, Moksha Shastra they call it, and also repetition of God's name. Japa is also called Swadhyaya in yoga. And surrendering all our actions to the God. This is the crux of the Karma Yoga taught in Bhagavad Gita and elsewhere. Ishvara Pranidhana. Surrendering our agency of work, that I am doing this work, the Kartru Bhavana, agencyship, and also the work itself, and also the fruits of the work, all has to be surrendered to God. This is the long time strategy we have to adopt throughout our life to counter the evil thoughts. But immediate, a short-term strategy also can be adopted. A short-term method, immediate. Suppose I am very angry with a person. What I had to do? How to control the anger? Yoga says, Vitarka bhadane pratipaksha bhavanam. Raise the opposite source. Of course, he has committed a big crime now, that person. Has he not done any good thing to you in the past? Remember that. Develop love and compassion. Raise the thoughts of compassion and love. When the thoughts of the compassion and love becomes dominant, the thought of anger will get subsided. This is the method technique we can adopt while we are overpowered by passions like anger and the hatred. And I repeat, suppressed thoughts are very harmful to the mental well being. Don't try to suppress the thoughts. Instead of curb it by raising the opposite thoughts. And non injury, if I think of non injury, injuring someone, injuring need not be physical. You need not go and beat a person. You can injure a person by thinking evil of him. That is also an injury. And also verbally you can injure another. So when a thought of injuring someone comes to my mind, I know it is evil, it is not good for me. What I have to do? To raise the thought of compassion and the love, opposite thoughts. This is what is meant by vitarka bhadane pratipaksha bhavanam. Very practical idea to counter the evil thoughts. The next problem we face in our life is dealing with others. How to maintain meaningful relationship with others. Why our relationships are so fragile? We live in a materialistic society, especially in a city like Bengaluru. We live a very worldly life. Our relationships are very fragile because they are all based upon materialistic considerations. Our relations is based on give and take. You give love and I give love. Give and take. It is barter. It is selfish. All our motive behind the love or relationship are selfish. That is why many a time the relationships are broken. Nowadays, a tragedy is young people marrying, they will break up within 1 year or 2 years. That has become very common. Many people have chosen not to marry at all. This is a very, very tragic situation as far as relationship is concerned. Relationship should not be guided by materialistic consideration or selfish motives. So relation should be spiritual. Make the relationship spiritual. How to make the relationship spiritual? There is a beautiful shloka in the Bhagavad Gita. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna. Suppose someone is unhappy, someone is in distress, make that unhappiness your own. See yourself in you. Of course, you are Atman, but he is also Atman, she is also Atman. Go and help them, serve them. Make others' happiness and the others' misery your own. Make the whole world your own. As Sharada Devi, the Holy Mother, puts it. And that will generate long lasting relationships, enduring relationships, wonderful relationships. Once again, yoga gives us four cardinal attitudes we have to develop in order to have meaningful relationship with others. Suppose someone is happier than me, very virtuous, he is leading a very good life, better life than me? What should be my attitude towards him? Generally, we develop enmity towards him or her. Instead of it, we should develop friendliness towards those who are happier than ourselves. This is what yoga says. Suppose someone are miserable, they are very unhappy. What should be our attitude? But we become very mean towards those miserable souls. We should not become like that. We should not reduce to the level of the animals by showing the meanness towards those poor people leading a suffering life. We have to develop compassion. In fact, in Buddhism, one of the cardinal values they hold on to or they teach is compassion. Compassion, daya. And those who are very virtuous than us, doing lot of good works, leading good life, helping others, we develop jealousy towards them. Instead of it, we have to delight in their merits. We have to take pride in their good works. And lastly, with regard to wicked people, we develop hatred instead of we have to develop indifference towards these people. Then only our mind can be peaceful and tranquil. The evil attitudes or the evil thoughts like enmity, meanness, jealousy, and hatred. These are the factors for our turbulence of the mind, our suffering. Wherever there is turbulence, that is causes suffering. So these are all the solutions Yoga Vedanta give us. And next one is managing dualities of life. We know life is full of dualities. You need not study Gita to understand there is duality in life. Sukha, dukkha, labha, alabha. Sometimes we are happy, next moment we are unhappy. These are the dualities. And Shita and Ushna, cold and hot, the warm. So, first we have to recognize the fact one is bound to face the dualities in life. He cannot escape from the dualities of the life. That's what Krishna says, tasmad apariharyartham. Apariharya means you cannot avoid them. If you want, Swamiji puts it, if you want to avoid dukkha or the suffering, that means you have to avoid sukha also. That means you have to transcend them both. Until then you cannot avoid the dukkha. If you invite sukha, you are automatically inviting dukkha also. So we know the solutions. We have read the Gita. Sukha dukkhe same krutva. The same sightedness. This is what is emphasized in the Gita. It is a great virtue, great principle, psychological principle we can adopt to maintain tranquility and peace in our life. There are two things we have to learn. Enduring is different from saying same-sightedness. I endure my suffering. Sahana it is called. And Gita teaches both. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam. Of course, I had to bear the difficulties. I had to bear that. But that is not enough. Sahana is not enough. Just bearing is not enough. We have to see both misery and happiness with equal mind. Mind should not be disturbed at all. There is a beautiful idea in the Ram Nam, the verses we sing before Ram Nam, Rama's mind was same when he was offered crownship by Dasharatha, and when he was asked, and also when he was asked to go to forest by the same Dasharatha in the next morning. And the previous day he was offered the crown sheet, he would become Yuvaraja, equal to emperor himself. But next day the same Dasharatha told him, go to forest. And the beautiful face of Rama, the wonderful face of Rama did not change at all. It was beaming light, it was full of happiness, it was full of contentment. So the importance of same-sightedness has been stressed in the Yoga Vedanta, and Gita says, Asakta buddhi sarvatra. Always develop a kind of detachment, the attitude of detachment towards crisis, in the times of crisis and also in the time of happiness. So, in order to practice all these methods, we have to spiritualize our life. That is fundamental. If we have worldly ambitions, too much of worldly ambitions and craving for sensual enjoyment, we can never get mental happiness. We will be troubled by two enemies according to the Gita. One is Kama, another is Krodha. They are not different according to Krishna. They are the two sides of the same coin. Unsatisfied desires will get transformed into Krodha or the anger. Kamat Krodho bijayate. So Kama, Krodha, they are the real enemies. There are no enemies externally. Nobody can disturb our peace of mind. And how we spoil our life, how we make our life meaningless, insipid, the process is given in Gita. It all starts with the mind. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. First we think of the objects. Go on thinking about the objects of the senses. To hear something, to see something, to touch something, to eat, taste something. Then dhyayato vishayan pumsan sangasteshu upajayate. We will develop attachment. Thinking too much of the objects of the senses will lead to sanga, attachment. Attachment will lead to craving or desire. Sanga sanjayate kamaha. Kamatu lobho vijayate. And kamatu krodha, anger will develop. And too much anger will lead to infatuation, mudha. We become almost like insane-like. And we lose our discernment power, discrimination power, what is good and what is bad, because we lose sight of the education. We just forget what we have learnt from our elders or in schools, what is good and what is bad. Muti Vibhrama it is called. When we lose our memory, when we lose our power of discrimination, what is good and what is bad, and that is called buddhi nasha. Buddhi nasha means our discrimination faculty is lost, and that is called buddhi nashe pranashyati. Our life becomes meaningless and insipid. So Vedanta says the life is not meant for pleasures, it is for spiritual learning and realization. As Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly said, life is meant for the realization of God. And our duty is to develop intense love for God. And Sri Ramakrishna teaches 4 simple but very important, practically significant disciplines for our spiritual advancement. One is prayer, second is japa, meditation, and singing the name of the Lord. And prayer means talking directly to God, unburdening all our sorrows, our the heavily loaded, our sufferings, unburdening anxieties and worries. But in the advanced state, prayer is nothing but being still, not to talk, not to ask for anything, being still in the presence of the divine and enjoying its bliss. Japa is repeating the holy name of the Lord, constantly thinking about Him. And meditation is the result of the constant japa. When thoughts constantly flow uninterruptedly towards God. But easiest way, Sri Ramakrishna says, is chanting the name of the Lord, chanting the hymns like Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama, Chandi, and there are hundreds of hymns, and singing the glories of the Lord. So we have to make our life meaningful. Then only it is worthwhile to call ourselves as human beings. So teachings of ancient scriptures will help us. They have the wherewithal to solve all of our modern problems. And in this modern age, the teachings of the ancient scriptures have resurrected in the lives of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Mata Sharada Devi, and Swami Vivekananda. They are the best illustrations of the values, eternal values taught in the Yoga and Vedanta. And Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Mata Sharada Devi, and Swami Vivekananda are also the living example of how to survive life's challenges in this modern age by adopting Yoga Vedanta way. Thank you very much. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.